Welcome to another episode of the Victory Podcast, driven by Audi. I'm your host, Keely Eure, joined by my co-host and former USC quarterback, Cody Kessler. Cody, we're back with another recap episode. This time we're talking about USC's 59-20 win over Georgia Southern in the Coliseum. I'm curious, Cody, what are your thoughts after looking at the film?
Yeah, I was very pleased with how this team played on Saturday. At the end of the day, we're 2-0 right now, and there's some things that you can work on and improve upon, and you're going to go back on Sunday, and that's the accountability hour, right? You're going to come back after the game's over and watch the film and improve on the things that you need to improve upon, but also pat your back on some of the stuff that you got better at from a week ago. There were some things on tape against Missouri State. There were some issues. I feel like USC as a team took a step forward in correcting some of those things, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Now, I would like to see them improve on some other stuff before the competition gets tougher. That's going to happen this week going into Big Ten conference play against Purdue. But overall, USC got the job done. You celebrate all wins. We learn from what we need to learn from. We correct those going forward. But USC's 2-0 and off to a great start so far this year.
Alrighty, Cody. Well, I'm excited to dive into it. Before we do, just a couple of reminders. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You can also watch the video version of this show on the USC Athletics YouTube channel. And also a PSA/apology. Cody and I both had a scheduling conflict on Sunday, so we're recording this on a Monday night. So apologies for the late release, but we will be back on track with our preview episode releasing on Thursday, opening up Big Ten play against Purdue. Alrighty, Cody. Well, I want to dive into USC's offensive performance. More than 700 yards of total offense. And if that's the day that USC had, I'm going to assume that Jaden Mayava had a pretty good day as well. But what did you see from the quarterback?
Yeah, I just continue to be impressed with Jaden Mayava right now. I mean, he looks like he's so comfortable out there and he's in command and he's showing great poise and great leadership. And I love the way that he's going through progression. You can tell this offseason that he spent a lot of time in the film room and a lot of time with Coach Riley. And he understands the concepts. He's doing a great job of reading the defense and he knows what Coach Riley wants to get accomplished on a play-to-play basis. He's starting at one, going to two, resetting his feet, going to three. Before he would go to one, put his head down, start scrambling, and take off and run. Or when he takes off and runs and gets outside of the pocket, he would look down instead of keeping his eyes downfield. He's just playing at such a high level right now. And look, I understand who the competition is, but for me, what we saw last year in those 4 games, this is a new player. This is night and day from the Jaden Mayava that we saw at the end of the season in 2024 to the guy that we've seen in these first 2 games. And I really feel like the sky's the limit this year for this offense when you have a quarterback like Mayava playing at such a high level. I love his decision making right now. That was one of the biggest knocks on him last year. What was too many times putting the ball in harm's way and having these turnover worthy throws and loose with the football. That is not the case this year. Still 0 turnovers on the season for Jaden Mayava. I would say for this offense, but Wayman Jordan unfortunately had that fumble on the opening drive. Very happy with how he bounced back, and I'll
Yeah.
talk about him in a second. But what was cool for me in that moment was Jaden Mayava went up to him right away, put his
Hmm.
arm around him. They got to the sideline. That's what you do as a leader. Hey, shake it off. I'm going to throw a pick sometimes. I'm going to make a mistake. You're going to fumble. Our tackle's going to miss a block, right? Our tight end, our receivers are going to drop a ball. But as a quarterback, you go over those guys, hold them accountable, but you also show leadership and say, hey, pick your chin up. Let's go to the sideline, get it corrected, and go back out there. And that's what Mayava is doing. It's been so cool to see. And the best part for me is when you play quarterback at USC, you have, and I might be biased, but you have the best playmakers in all of college football on the offensive side of the ball. You have a Jacoby Lane, you have a Makai Lemon, you have Wayman Jordan, Eli Sanders, you have all these guys around you where you don't need to do too much. And he's really starting to understand that. He knows, let me just get the ball to Makai Lemon with an accurate throw in great timing in space, and he's going to take it 75 to the house. Let me throw it up and have that 50-50 ball to Jacoby Lane in the back of the end zone, and he's going to go moss a guy with one hand. I don't need to be perfect, right? I just need to get the ball to the guys and to the playmakers in space and allow them to do the rest. When you start trying to be perfect and over analyzing everything, you start playing a little bit more robotic, right? And then you're not, playing loose and playing free and letting the other guys do the rest. And that's where you start missing some of these throws and making some mistakes. So it's just, I could go on and on. I'm so impressed with this film. I watched the game back a couple times now. His footwork, his mobility, everything, from the ground up is very impressive. And then especially between the years, I think he's taken a huge step forward there. Now, he does still need to work on some of his accuracy issues. He'll make 3 or 4 great throws, and then he came back and missed that over route to Makai Lemon that one hopped on the ground. He's got to clean up some of that. His footwork is great. His mechanics are great. Are they perfect? No, and they're never going to be. But you can continue to get better at those things. But like I said, I'm so impressed with how he's playing right now, and that trickles down. When Hassan Longstreet comes in and he's playing at a high level as well with the backups, that's not by accident. That's because he's watching Jaden Mayava and he's watching Sam Heward, and Coach Heward is in there with those guys and saying, this is the standard. This is how everybody needs to play. Coach Riley's obviously, helped them out throughout the offseason. So it's just really cool to see right now. if you can't tell, I'm excited as a former quarterback. I love the way that that room is playing and the way that they're performing as a unit. Now, with all that being said, those last two games are behind us. Now we're really going to learn a lot about Maava and this offense going forward in Big Ten play. The competition is going to get tougher, but I mean, through these first 2 weeks, I'm never going to say A plus because there's always room for improvement. But 9 out of 10, a very high A, and the ability to get to an A plus, we'll figure that out at the end of the year. But I'm loving what I'm seeing from Jaden Maava and the rest of this quarterback room right now. It's allowing this offense to play at such a high level.
Now, we said this in our last recap episode, but I'm going to say it again just because of the opponent USC has been playing. These recap episodes are kind of going to be more of a position by position review in the sense that we just want to get a sense of who USC is so far this season. So forgive me if it's a little bit like running backs, offensive line, but that's kind of where we're at right now. I'm sure after Purdue we'll have much more thematic things to go over. But in that sense, you mentioned it, Cody. Wayman Jordan had a fumble early in the game. I was curious to see what Coach Riley was going to do as far as reps when USC's offense did get back on the field, and he did trust Wayman back with the drive. What did you see from that trust that Riley has in him and how Wayman responded?
Yeah, the first thing that I thought was that I was in trouble. For those of you who don't know, we do the Trojan Tailgate Show 2 hours before every game. So make sure you're there, ESPN 710 Radio and USC Athletics YouTube page. But at the very last segment, we all pick our player of the game, who we think is going to be player of the game. And then we keep a tally throughout the year who wins. As soon as Wayman fumbled, I thought the same thing. I thought, that's it. I'm out. I lost. Sanders is going to go in. He's going to take Wayman Jordan out. And it's going to be a couple series till he gets to go in again. But like I said, Jaden Mayava went over to him, put his arm around him. He got to the sideline. The coaches patted him on the back and said, "Hey, you're good." Send him back out there. That's how you build that confidence. You let a guy know that, hey, I'm fine if you make a mistake. I still trust you. Perfect example, the NFL game on Sunday night. We watched Derrick Henry, and the Buffalo Bills came back and won that game. But we watched Derrick Henry fumble the football. And that's tough. He was playing at a very high level the whole game. He fumbles the football at the very end. But the first thing that you see is his teammates rally around him and say, "Hey, we're good." Now, they don't win that game, but I promise you the rest of the year, Derrick Henry's not going to come out. They're not going to say, "All right, we're not giving him the football anymore because he fumbled." You build off of that. That builds character. Mistakes are going to happen. What I care about is how you respond after you make a mistake. If you go over there and you put your head down and you check out and you're down and you're not locked in and I can't count on you because you're not mentally tough, then I'm worried. But if you're like a Derrick Henry or a Wayman Jordan or guys like that, you're going to fumble and come back and say, "Hey, coach, I got you. Won't happen again." Those are the guys I trust. And the coach has to allow you to go do that. So I love that Lincoln Riley didn't keep him out of the game, threw him right back in there and said, "Hey, let's go make some big plays." And he did just that. I'll say as a room right now, as a unit, this is potentially the best running back room in college football. And I know it's early. I know there's other teams out there. I know there's other running back rooms out there that are very talented, but I am just so high on this unit. Brian Jackson didn't play. I understand that. So, right now I'm focusing on these two guys. King Miller, by the way, he is a stud. He is dangerous
Yeah.
with the ball in his hand. I mean, right now, he's probably averaging a touchdown per touch right now. Every time you give him the football, he's going to find the end zone. I don't care if it's from 50, 40, 30, whatever it may be. His yards per carry right now has got to be number one in the country. So I don't know how much we'll see
Yeah.
him as the season goes on, but that young man is earning his touches. So if he does get into a game and these Big Ten conference play, or these Big Ten conference road games or home games, whatever it may be, I would not be surprised because he's absolutely earning his way. But like I said, just one of the best running back rooms in the country right now. I love too that Wayman Jordan fumbled. I do, because like I mentioned, I wanted to see what his character was going to be like. He answered the bell. He came right back, 16 carries, 167 yards, one touchdown, averaged a first down per carry. Let that sink in. He averaged 10.4 yards per carry. Every time he touched the
Wow.
ball, he was at least getting a first down. He has unbelievable vision, unbelievable patience. I know that I'm going to keep patting myself on the back, but I said all offseason when I went and watched his tape at Hutchinson Community College, he's going to transition perfectly into Lincoln Riley's offense because he's played in that offense before. He understands when a guard tackle pulls, how to be patient, how to let the blocks develop. Go back and watch the tape. If you're bored and you're hungry for USC football before they play Purdue this week, and go back and watch the rerun of this game and watch Wayman Jordan when we have those guard tackle pulling to where he's not getting the ball and beating them to the hole. He's slow, let it develop, see the hole and the play develop, put my foot in the ground, get north and south and make a big play. He is so good at that, and it's so impressive. Now, Eli Sanders, when you look at him, he is, in my opinion, the other starting running back on this team. If you put him on probably 95% of the rosters in the country, he would be a one in almost every other running back room. That's how good he is. And that's how fortunate we are to have both of them on this team right now. It is rare that you have a 1A, 1B. It is normally a 1-2 when it comes to running backs. That there's a clear difference between your starter and your backup. USC doesn't have that. I would feel completely comfortable if Eli Sanders went in for, Wayman Jordan, if there was an injury or something happened, and hopefully that doesn't, but if Eli Sanders had to go in and take over for 4 or 5 series in a row, I feel great. And I'm sure a lot of Trojan fans do as well. He is so dangerous with the ball in his hand. He can score from anywhere on the field. I love the way that Lincoln Riley gets him the football. It's not just, zone read plays. It's not just end rounds. It's not all these, continuous things. He finds ways to be creative to get him on those swing routes and get him out of the backfield. Let's get the ball in his hands in space. Let's get him away from the line of scrimmage, get him a swing route, get him a ball over the middle. It's, use him in the pass game. They just both combine with Wayman Jordan and Eli Sanders are absolute weapons on this offense. And I really love the way that Coach Riley's using them. So, yeah, like I mentioned, I might be biased, but I do think we are very lucky right now with one of, if not the best running back rooms in all of college football.
Well, it's interesting, Cody. You mentioned a 1-2 punch, and I feel like USC has another one at a different skill position on its offense, Lemon and Lane. We joked last week that USC's wide receivers didn't find the end zone, but they definitely did against Georgia Southern. What have you seen from Mekhi Lemon and Jacoby Lane? It was incredible to watch.
Yeah, you know what, too? I will say this, and I've been thinking for a while about this. They've got to create something cool with that. Lemon Lane, like it
The
sounds
double
way too
alliteration?
catchy.
Okay,
Yeah, like
it's
a
not double, but the
NIL deal
alliteration.
or some merch. Yeah, well, I don't know what that means. You always use these big words that I don't
Sorry.
understand, but sure. Yeah, definitely that. But like someone out there who some t-shirts, some merch, call me. I'll be the first investor. It sounds like a fancy drink at a bar. Like, can I get a lemon lane or
Yeah, it's
a
true.
fancy street in one of these high quality neighborhoods, like you're in Beverly Hills or Calabasas,
Bougie.
and oh yeah, I live on Lemon Lane.
Yeah.
It's something cool. So, anyways, just I'm throwing that out there. I've been wanting
Love
to say
it.
that for a while. Maybe we should take this out so I can get my own merch idea going,
Oh, there you
and
go.
profit off it. But
Gatekeep.
with that being said, whatever you want to call them, Lemon and Lane, Lemon Lane, Lane Lemon. And I know I just said this about the running backs. I'm going to say the same exact thing. If you can't tell that I'm a Trojan, and I'm not even being biased, I feel like we have the best wide receiver duo in the country. There are a lot of talented receivers at Ohio State, at Texas, at other schools all around college football. I would put Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemon head to head up against any of them right now when it comes to talent and their catch radius and the things that they can do with the football in their hand, and they just complement each other so well. You have a tall, lengthy, strong, physical, tough-handed catcher like Jacoby Lane, and then you have a quick, speedy. I mean, he reminds me of Sonic the Hedgehog out there running around when he gets his football. I mean, he's so quick. He goes from 0 to 100 so fast. And Mekhi Lemon, it's just so much fun to watch. And if you're a DB, you're a defense. Good luck. How do you prepare for that? Like that catch by Jacoby Lane in the game where he went up there and caught it with one hand and he got an and one, got the penalty.
Yeah.
How do you guard that? You don't. I don't care if it's Georgia Southern or it's, one of the best teams in our conference, whether it's Michigan or Illinois this year or Oregon. You just can't cover that. It's impossible. And it's so impressive the fact that he has one arm taken away and go up and catch the football. Mekhi Lemon, he catches the ball on a curl route, turns left, turns right, gives you an in and out move, spins around, makes a guy miss, makes the next guy miss, and then he's gone. I mean, it just doesn't matter who your competition is. These guys are absolute ballers. They're the real deal. And I truly believe they're both going to be very good players on Sunday as well. It's so much fun to watch. We are very fortunate right now, to have both of them on this roster. I know, one of the question marks this season was, you lose a guy like Deuce Robinson, you lose Zachariah Branch, you lose Kyron Hudson, you lose all these, guys that were in a crowded wide receiver room. Are you still going to have the same production? I feel like that's been better this year. We've talked about it before because now Mekhi Lemon and Jacoby Lane get the majority of the targets and instead of trying to keep everybody happy, and
Yeah.
they can get in a rhythm and they understand how they fit in this offense and what their role is and who's 1A and who's 1B. And one game it's going to be Lane and the next game it's Lemon. And like I said, it's just so much fun. I'm jealous right now, and I played with some great wide receivers. I would love to, fake my birth certificate, go back and switch spots with my Ava for a little bit, just so I can throw a couple passes to Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemon. That's how talented these guys are. It's a lot of fun to watch. But with that being said, there's still a question mark after that, and who that wide receiver three is going to be. We saw some flashes in this game. A guy I want to bring up is Zacharias Williams. He
Yeah.
should have scored, and I mentioned Mayava with some of his accuracy. Got to get that ball a little bit more in front of him. I don't mind, I don't want to say underthrowing it, but making sure that it's a catch. The worst thing that you can do is have a guy wide open and you overthrow him by 3 yards. When he's that wide open, make sure they catch it. But if he hits him in stride, Zacharias Williams gets his first touchdown in the Coliseum. So that was really cool to see. I still think maybe that third option is going to be a tight end this year. We saw Walker Lyons get in the end zone. Lake McCree is a very viable option. So as much as I'm excited about Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemon, there are going to be games this year when we play some of these tougher defenses where they're going to go into the game and say, hey, 8 is out. We are doubling them. We're two man. We're playing someone over the top. 8's out of the game plan. 6 is going to have to go every time. He's going to get tired, or if it's vice versa, if it's, hey, 6 is going to be taken out of the game plan, you better throw it to Jacoby Lane every single time, or you better hope that your 3 can step up. And we're going to need some of these guys, but it's a good problem to have. I think there's a group of guys in that room that can play. We saw Prince Strachan was out for this game. It allowed some of these younger guys to step up. DJ Jordan, someone to keep an eye on. Jaden Richardson, Jay Fair, really like what those guys can bring to this football team. But someone is going to have to assert themselves as that dominant pass catcher. And it also want to mention it could come from the running back room. It could be Eli
Yeah.
Sanders, like we saw from Woody Marks a season ago. He could be that third option for USC. But yeah, at the top, not worried about it at all. Lemon Lane, whatever you want to call it. Call me. Let's get some t-shirts going. Let's get some merch going for these guys. But they are the real deal, and I cannot wait to see what they do the rest of this year. Just look out, Big Ten, because those guys are coming.
Well, you touched on it briefly, Cody, but the tight ends have continued to be productive in the receiving aspect. Walker Lyons got his first collegiate touchdown on Saturday, which congrats to him. And it's been a journey for him. Coach Riley has talked about how the fact that he went on a mission, kind of had to reintroduce himself to the game of football. So he's really starting to find his stride, it seems like. But what have you seen from that room as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, first I got to give a shout out to Chad Savage. There's a mindset with this team, and obviously Coach Hansen, who's now with the offensive line, kind of set that foundation. But Chad Savage, I feel like has come over and built off of that and helped those guys take it to the next level. I mean, just going back to Week 1, Lake McCree on that huge touchdown was awesome to see. They started that game in 12 personnel, which means 2 tight ends, and I really feel like Coach Riley has made it a point of emphasis this year to get those guys more involved in the game plan. They're absolute weapons down in the red zone, especially in the Big Ten, the conference that we play in. When you go 12 personnel, you're going to see some base defenses, and they're going to have a linebacker trying to cover your pass catching tight ends, or they're going to have a safety that comes down. And I like those mismatches. So we need to be able to do that in this conference. We need to be able to do that when we get to the 25, 20, 15-yard line and really take advantage of the middle of the field with Walker Lyons, with Lake McCree, with Joey Olson, with Walter Matthews, some of these other guys on this roster. And see what they can do. When you have size like that and you have athleticism at that position, you got to take advantage of it. And I really think that unlocks another level for Lincoln Riley's offense. So, like you said, that's awesome. Walker Lyons getting in the end zone. I mean, that's a huge accomplishment. It's not easy to do. Not a lot of people can say they scored a touchdown in the Coliseum. So I'm happy for him. Lake McCree's obviously the leader of that room, but shout out to Chad Savage having those guys ready to go every Saturday.
Now, in terms of USC's offensive line, I thought it was interesting. We saw a shakeup early in the game. Alani Noah was not the starter. It was actually Micah Benuelos. And Coach Riley was actually asked about it after the game, and he said it was an inside the walls decision and that he's going to leave it at that. So just a development there in that regard. Cody, how did you think the line reacted and responded to a change in the starting 5?
Yeah, I'm not going to speculate on that. I would love, obviously if Coach Riley expanded on it, but he said verbatim, I'm leaving it at that. And inside the walls decision, I'm not sure what that means, but all I know is that Michael Benuelos, you're the next man up. And no matter why it happened, it's your opportunity. And I thought he did a good job. You got to make the most of those situations. And I was proud of the way that he played. And Alani Noah still played. I think it's important to note he came in there with the second unit. So it wasn't injury related. It was obviously a coach's decision, but maybe it's something to keep an eye on. Maybe they're competing. Maybe it's going to be something going forward. But either way, whoever's out there, I was proud of the way that this O-line played the last 2 weeks. They really have done a good job of taking that next step forward, especially when you have a new center like Killian O'Connor. I know he played in the bowl game, but this is his first time as the full-time starting center. You expect maybe to get to a slow start when you have a new face at center. You expect maybe some of the calls to be off, some missed blocks, and they could have been better in week 1 with their run blocking and on some of those pullers. They lost some of those one-on-one pass blocking on the outside. And fortunately enough, Jaden Mayava is athletic to get away from that. That wasn't the case this week. I was very proud of how they played clean from start to finish, did a really good job in the run game. I mean, they were creating holes out there in the run game and lanes that Keely, you and I could have ran through. And I'm not even joking. It was
Debatable, but
impressive
yes.
the way that they were. Huh?
I said
Did you say
debatable.
debatable?
For me, at least.
Well, you
but
take a
yes.
compliment. Hey, take a compliment. Come
So,
on.
okay, fine. Yes.
I've seen you high step. I've seen you run out there and high step and get to Coach Riley when you're trying to catch him before he's running up the tunnel for an interview. So
Exactly.
give
Yes.
yourself a little credit.
Okay, sure.
But yeah, I'll say this. I know he can't defend himself. Sua, who always likes to say he's fast, Sua could have ran through the hole. So
There you
hopefully
go.
he hears this.
There you go.
Had an ongoing battle right now on this stuff. But no, it was cool to see. You need to see that. Build that confidence early. Establish that physicality, establish that continuity with one another and build that chemistry before you get to conference play because you're going to need those guys in the trenches if we want to be dominant this year. And the run game, like I said, was so impressive. Sanders and Jordan combined average over 9 yards per carry. I mean, every time they touched the football, you're almost surprised if they got brought down before, or even if the first contact was before 5 yards. It was almost like, okay, what happened there? Why are we
Yeah.
not having a 20-yard gain, a 15-yard gain, a 30-yard gain? It was just that's winning football. And when the competition level isn't quite there, that's what you need to see. Because if it wasn't that, and they were averaging 2 yards per carry or 3 yards per carry, and we were having issues against Missouri State and Georgia Southern, then I would be concerned, especially a Georgia Southern team that gave up 351 yards rushing against Fresno State the week prior. We had over 300 yards on the ground. I love that the running backs played well, but I've got to give credit to the big guys up front. They corrected some of their mistakes from a week ago. That's all you can ask for, especially when you have a new face starting at right guard and Micah Benuelos. You may think, okay, are they going to start back from scratch again? Is the chemistry not going to be there? But no, I trust in Killian O'Connor. He's been crushing it up front. I'm excited for the future of this offensive line. I thought pass protection was great as well. I think they did a better job this week than they did in week one. Jaden Maiava had all day to throw on some of those. I mean, he was going from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to run to eat some popcorn back there in the pocket and then find the guy who's going to get the football too. So as a quarterback, that's a great feeling to have. He better go out and buy him some dinner this week and get ready for this next game coming up. And one guy I want to give a shout out to, it went viral on Twitter and there were some clips about it. Justin Tawanuu at right tackle.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it yet, go back and look it up. It was a swing pass to Eli Sanders, and it was the pancake block of all pancakes. I mean, with extra syrup and some butter on top. It was the definition of a pancake. And that's grown man football right now. He is playing at such a high level right now. We talk so much about Elijah Page, who's a leader on this football team and a guy that's going to be playing on Sundays. Justin Tawanuu is playing just as good as Page right now. And that's great because you need your tackles to be on their A game going into conference play. There's some very good edge rushers in the Big Ten. You need your left tackle and your right tackle to be playing very high level football, and they're both doing that. So again, shout out to that offensive line. Go check that out though. If you haven't seen the clip yet, it is an unbelievable pancake block. Now, the critical part of me, is it perfect? No, absolutely not. There's things that they can improve upon, but they're playing some very good football right now, playing at a high level for a unit that's really only played 2 weeks together the last, couple games of the season.
Yeah, good point. On the whole, Cody, obviously, as you mentioned, the competition is only going to increase. The talent level is going to increase as we progress into this season. In that sense, obviously, it's fun to see USC have these explosive plays, have a 73-point game. But how do you, from your perspective, set the expectations for USC's offense as the talent increases each game?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to say that we're going to continue to average. I think we're over 60 points per game right now, which is first in college football, or 65, whatever it may be. I know that we're first right now in college football. That's not going to be the case. Some of these, defenses that we're going to play are going to get better, and the competition is going to continue to improve. We're also going to play some better offenses that are going to put together longer drives, and it's not going to be, a quick turnaround towards 3 and out every time. And our defense is playing at a high level and getting us the football back. So we're going to have to play the long game a little bit more. I love that USC has that explosiveness back to their offense, though. That's something that I think they need with Lincoln Riley. And when this offense is at its best, it has the capability of scoring in one play, of scoring in two play. You're also going to have to sustain drives, though. It's not going to be, get Makai Lemon the ball every time and he's going to make 4 guys miss and go to the end zone. You're going to have to be balanced, lean on the run game, lean on the pass game, and that's something that I think Coach Riley's done these last 2 weeks as he's gone out and been like, all right, this drive, point of emphasis, we're throwing it 8 times or we're throwing it 5 times. Next drive, we're going out. We're going 4 or 5 runs in a row, right? We're just building that comfortability where some of these games is going to be a pass heavy game and some of these games is going to be run heavy. And you want to see how your team reacts with that type of play calling. So, yeah, it's going to get tougher. I wish it was always this easy, but that's not what we signed up for to play in the Big Ten. We want everybody's best every week. And I have really, really high hopes for this offense. I don't think there's going to be a huge drop off, regardless of how tough the competition gets. If they can keep up, the chemistry and the explosiveness that they have right now on the offensive side of the ball, they could still be, even at the end of the season when we look back on it, one of the best offenses in the entire country.
Alrighty, Cody, I want to break down what you saw from USC's defense. Before we do, just want to give a thanks to Audi. What you expect from an SUV is a range of sizes to fit your lifestyle. Expectations matter, but exceeding them matters more. The Audi family of SUVs, progress you can feel. And at Ralph's, you get high quality and low prices, so you never have to compromise on your budget. Save on thousands of items throughout the store. Ralph's, fresh for everyone. As we mentioned today, Cody, it's a Monday night, and earlier today we had Trojans live, and I thought it was interesting. Sean Cody mentioned the fact that he wanted to see the run defense improve based on what he saw on Saturday. So I'm curious if you saw the same thing on film.
Yeah, I'm with Sean on that. That was one of the areas that, I had a concern about when I went back and watched the tape. Both the defensive line and the linebackers at the second level, they struggled to stop the run and be consistent all game long. And I'm a little concerned because now we're going into conference play and we're going to see a lot of teams that love to run the football, that are a lot more physical than Georgia Southern and Missouri State, that know how to get downhill and work those A blocks and those combo blocks, and they're going to create bigger holes than what Georgia Southern was doing on Saturday. And it just felt like, especially early in this game, and I'd love to blame it on the backups coming in and rotating a lot, which USC did, and I will mention that in a second. There was a lot of rotation, but when the first unit was out there, when those first four defensive linemen were out there, when those first two starting linebackers were out there with Gentry and Stevens, there were some big holes in the run game and some explosive plays. And Georgia Southern had over 140 yards rushing on the game. That's not good enough. You've got to be able to clean that up because these other teams that we're going to play are capable of putting up more yards if we don't get that fixed. There were multiple times that USC was getting blown off the football. I was a little disappointed that there wasn't more of a surge up front. And what I mean by that is our defensive line blowing their offensive players back into the running back and pushing them backwards and playing on their side of the football. They were getting combo blocked and working up to the linebacker and pushing our guys back and creating these big holes that were easy for these running backs to run through. Just you have to be able to eliminate that. But I do think it's something that can get fixed going forward. I really do. I know you're not going to win every single rep, and it's tough to be perfect, but you do want to see a little bit more of a consistency in win rate when you play a lesser opponent like a Georgia Southern, and that wasn't the case on Saturday. And like I mentioned, it wasn't just a defensive line; it was a linebacker play a little bit. Gentry was solid. I thought he played well. Led the team with 10 tackles. Wasn't perfect to his standard, but that's not a guy I'm worried about. I know he's going to get everything taken care of. He's a leader on that defense. He's a unicorn. He's going to fly around. I have no worries about him. I know he's going to be ready to go, next week against Purdue and then for the rest of the conference play, this year. The guy that I am a little worried about, and I think the sky's the limit for him as a player. He's just still new to this defense and he's new to being a full-time starter, was Desmond Stevens. There was a couple times that he lost gap integrity. He was kind of jumping out of the way on some of these plays and not being where he needed to be, and that led to some of those big time runs. He only had 2 tackles on the day. For the guy that's playing in the middle of the Stevenson as a downhill player, I'd expect him to have a little bit more. But like I said, I'm not worried about him going forward. It's just he's young and he's still getting his legs under him. And he's understanding how he fits in the scheme and how to be dominant. Last year was Easton Mascarenas Arnold, who's a veteran, who's up here, who's seen a lot of football. Now you have Desmond Stevens, who's learning and has to get to here, and it's going to take a little bit of time. That's
Yeah.
okay. And don't hit the panic button. At the end of the day, USC still played at high level football on defense. They did a really good job. I was proud of what I saw. Another guy to keep an eye on, Jaden Walker. I'm excited about him in the
That
future. I think he's going to
hit
get some
he
more
made
opportunities. Yeah, that hit.
fired up
That
the
was nice.
sideline.
That was loud. I was at home watching on TV. It was as loud on
Did you
TV as
hear
I'm
it?
sure it was in the Coliseum. Yeah, you could hear it. I love hearing the pads pop a little bit, but he's a guy to keep an eye on. Elijah Newby, another guy. So there are guys that can come in and rotate at that linebacker spot. But I expect to see a little bit more out of this defensive line, out of Eric Gentry in this linebacker unit. But I have no doubt in my mind that Rob Ryan, Coach Henney, Coach Nua, and Danton Lynn are going to have those things corrected. I promise they already are. I guarantee you they were in the film room on Sunday and Monday going through everything, getting it fixed. And then when you hit practice on Tuesday, which is tomorrow, that's going to be the first thing they work on. 9-on-7, run defense, gap integrity, all those things. But now you have great film to learn from. It's just how quickly can you get it fixed going forward? And they got to get it taken care of before Saturday.
I'm glad you mentioned Desmond Stevens because that's something I was wondering on my rewatch. Like the fact that this is his second start and he is the green dot guy, like how much is that for him to process and get everybody lined up and listen to Lynn and like do all those things? And by the way, it's your second start.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot on your plate. I was surprised. I would have expected that, and what Keely mentioned or what she means by the green dot guy is that's the player. You get a green sticker on your helmet if you have the headset in your ear, if you have the communication system that now one player on offense and one player on defense can use. Desmond Stevens, that Mike linebacker. And I didn't know that until you just said that
Oh,
actually.
really?
I would have thought that might have
Kamari.
been maybe an Eric Gentry or a Kamari at safety. Absolutely. But the problem with having Kamari at safety with that is that it's tough for him to communicate all the way down to the defensive line.
Yeah, good
You
call.
want it to be your linebacker who can say, look down to the D line and say, hey, here's the call, turn back to the safeties, here's the call, right? So he has equal communication. If it's a safety, it's tough for him, especially if you're playing a quick snap offense like Georgia Southern was last week, for Kamari to run down, tell the D line, and then get back if he's playing cover two or cover four, to his deep half or his deep quarters. So that's a little difficult. I just would think maybe it would be Eric Gentry. But and look, let me make this very clear. I am not saying that they're playing bad football. It is just not to the standard right now that I know they can play at. And it was obvious. And I'm everyone saw the game. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The run defense needed to be better. 140 yards rushing to a team like Georgia Southern, who, I would like to see that around the 50, 60, 70-yard mark, even with the rotation guys going in there. And later in the second half or even early in the game when some of the backups got to play, I would have liked to see a game when you play an opponent like that to where it's just a stonewall and there's no room to run. And they are getting 1 yard per carry, 2 yard per carry. They have no room to move. Instead, there were times that they were gashing us and finding some big holes and having those explosive plays in the run game. And the reason I'm concerned is because we're going to play a lot of teams that can run the football very well. And we've got to get those fixed. But like I mentioned, I have no doubt that they'll get it taken care of. I'm only being critical on Desmond Stevens and Gentry and the defensive line and those guys, calling them out and talking about them, and mentioning this stuff because I have no doubt that they're going to get it fixed and they can play at a very high level. It's just accountability hour. You got to go out there and get those things taken care of and get it fixed very quickly.
Well, you're hitting on something that Coach Riley talked about in his post-game press conference. He said, the message to his team after a game like this is to not get lost in the score, but to evaluate whether we played our best. And something that Coach Riley highlighted that immediately he wants fixed is penalties, especially defensive penalties, hands to the face. He said that's number one, something we need to address. And I think that's kind of why if you the internet always has its opinions, but I feel like this game, even though it was 59-20, a little bit of a mixed bag of how people felt about it, just because of rotation, obviously, with a lot of guys on defense, but also just it was a little sloppier than what we saw in week one, I think.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. That's something that I wanted to talk about a little bit is, those hands to the face penalties, they came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It's not like that had been an issue before. It was out of nowhere and it kept happening in this game. And it was frustrating. And I don't want to say it was undisciplined. It just felt like that, guys were not as clean as they should have been in their technique, which hasn't been the case with Coach Henney and Coach Nua. So I was surprised with that. You got to get that fixed. It's not going to hurt you too bad against Georgia Southern, against Missouri State. But when you play a Michigan, an Oregon, Notre Dame, teams like that, you're giving them a free 15, 30, 45 yards, especially on a third down or say it's third and short and you make a hell of a stop on a run play and you get in the backfield and you make a tackle for loss and the crowd's going crazy and then boom, 15-yarder for a hands of the face. That just absolutely kills momentum. And it's all penalties. I know hands of the face was the biggest issue in this game. It was a hot topic, but you've got to play smart, disciplined football, get that cleaned up. Again, I have no doubt that Len and Coach Henney and Coach Nua, as soon as 9-on-7 ends on Tuesday on practice, they're going to go to some EDD, some everyday drills, some individual stuff, and they're going to work on better technique and not getting your hand to the face. But yeah, that's something that's got to get cleaned up going forward.
Well, we saw for a second game in a row that USC was able to get pressure in the backfield, 4 sacks on the day. Congratulations to Anthony Lucas. Not only his first career sack, but he notched 2 on the night. What did you see from that aspect, Cody?
Yeah, I've been very pleased with USC's pass rush this year, and that first unit guy, the second unit guy, I think they're playing at a high level. 4 sacks on the day total, 9 on the season. Remind you, they had 21 last year. All of last year, they had 21 sacks. They already have 9 through 2 games, and USC played Utah State, and they played some teams that were lesser last year. And through those first 6 games, they only had 6 sacks, and now they're already at 9 through 2. So huge improvement there. I really love when this defensive line can pin their ears back, get after the quarterback. We have some finesse guys on the outside. We have some power guys on the outside, guys that are capable of doing different things. Danton Lynn can mix and match some of these defensive ends. Anthony Lucas brings something different than Braylon Shelby. Cameron Fountain can do something different than Devin Tompkins and Jade Abasiri on the inside. And then you bring in some of these bigger guys like a Jamal Jarrett and a Jakeem Stewart who got some action in his first game and Keyshawn Silver. There's just so many different guys in this room that are capable of doing different things that can not only be dominant when it comes to run stopping, and obviously they've got to improve a little bit there, but they can get after the quarterback, and we're seeing that. And that's so much fun when you have a defense that's capable of wreaking havoc in the backfield when a quarterback's trying to drop back, because as a play caller, you're just licking your chops of, okay, whose turn is it? Who's ready to go eat? Anthony Lucas has 2. Shelby already has 2 on the year. Cameron Fountain is another guy who's playing at a high level right now. And what's cool is that we are good enough on the outside to win our one-on-ones. I don't feel like, when it's no knock on the team from a year ago and that roster, and I know there were some injuries and a lot of issues up front that the guys missed some time, but I don't feel like this team was good enough last year with the front four to where I could say, all right, we're going to win majority of these one-on-ones. I can say that now, and I feel confident in saying that. And then I know if we get Anthony Lucas one-on-one with a tackle, some of these premier tackles in the Big Ten, I like our chances. And I like Braylon Shelby, and I like Cameron Fountain, and I like these guys matched up one-on-one. So, it's as critical as I was with right now with the run defense, the pass defense is playing at a high level. We just got to play both, to where they're capable of doing. And I really believe that this team can get there very soon.
You mentioned Jakeem Stewart's rookie debut, and it just made me think of a note that I had while I was watching the game field level. I obviously have seen Jakeem on the practice field, but something about seeing him in a game environment really made me recognize his height. Like, he's just built so different, and he reclassified, so he's even younger, but like, I feel like his height is in his legs and maybe not in his like chest, if that makes sense. So he's just a physical specimen, which we knew, but just to see it in a game environment was crazy.
I think that's a little bit of the game day factor too. Like, guys look a little bit bigger,
True.
quicker,
Yeah.
faster, stronger on game day. When you put the game jerseys on, it,
Yeah.
it does. Everything kind of amplifies a little bit. But like you mentioned, the fact that he reclassified and as young as he is, like, he should be in high school right now. Like,
Yeah.
like let that sink in. And some of these guys, like some of these defensive linemen, some of the freshmen. I remember when some of these guys got on campus, like, they were just a couple months or even weeks removed from high school. Like, I wasn't the biggest guy in the world, but I remember getting here to USC and seeing some of these defensive ends that I'm like, there's no way you were in high school 6 weeks ago. Like, can you imagine being an offensive tackle and you're sitting there and you got a history test today and you get a D on it and you're bummed out and you're worried about it. And oh yeah, as soon as school ends, you got to go get dressed and go block Jakeem Stewart for 4 quarters. Like, no way. There's no shot.
That's
Like, I'm so
terrible.
happy I played quarterback and I didn't have to play any other position like offensive tackle and block guys like that or go block. Imagine going and blocking Anthony Lucas in high school
No,
or
thank you.
having to worry about, blocking Jade Abasiri, the size that he has with his arms and everything 2 years ago in high school, thinking, all right, let's go. I'm playing guard and he's the 3 tech this game. I'm going to go block Jade Abasiri for 60 minutes. Like,
Yeah.
forget about it. There's
No,
no
thank
shot.
you.
It's so impressive. But kind of to put a bow on all this, the run game or the run defense has to improve, has to get better. Pass defense or pass rush has been very good. I'm very pleased with the progress they've made. Still not where they can be, and they still got to improve. It's still not great, but they have taken a huge step forward in pass rush this year. And that was one of the main things I talked about. 21 sacks in 13 games is not good enough. 9 through the first 2 is a great starting point. But let's continue to see that number go up and up as the year goes on.
Something you broke down in the last recap episode was what seemed to be a miscommunication in USC secondary. And it seemed like that happened once again in this game. One, Cody, what did you see there? And two, not to bring back an old phrase, but the Cody concern meter, if you will. Is that something that's popping up a little bit in the communication aspect?
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, and I'll be brutally honest. I'm a little worried about our secondary right now, especially the mental side of things, and making sure guys are doing the right thing and they're in the right spot. That happened again, like you mentioned in this game, and that felt like, again, I'm not inside the walls, and I don't know what everyone else is supposed to be doing and what their job is, but when I went back and watched the tape, and when you watch the TV copy, it looked like everyone else was playing cover two or knew that it was cover two or playing zone coverage and Bishop Fitzgerald got the wrong call. And he thought maybe it was man to man, or he thought maybe he had help over the top, or he thought maybe he was a different, responsibility on that play because you could tell right away when the ball was snapped. He kind of looked back and thought, oh, shoot, I'm supposed to be deep, turned around, tried to catch the guy. By that time, it was too late. Then you see Kamari Ramsey walk up to him and he said, he did this, which I'm assuming is their cloud or their cover two call or whatever it may be. He showed him this signal. Bishop went, that's on me. So a little worried that it's Fitzgerald, who's a guy who's a veteran on this team. He is a new face player though. This is his first year. He's newer to this defense, so something that you maybe expect in these first couple of games. I need those things to happen now. If they're going to happen, get them out of the way now. Get them corrected so it doesn't happen going forward. That's what those first couple of games are for the season. But outside of that, there were times with our pass defense as a whole, whether zone or man, that there was too much separation from Georgia Southern receivers. That there was too many times that JC French the fourth, had some easy completions to get the ball to some of his receivers, some of his tight ends on an in cut, on an out cut, on a stop route. We did a good job of eliminating some of those explosive plays over the top. I know their first touchdown and their second touchdown were both deep balls. First one was great coverage. That was just an unbelievable catch by that receiver. So I can't put too much blame on Bishop Fitzgerald there. The second one was a misassignment, and they lost track of their guy. But other than that, there were really no explosive plays down the field in the pass game. It just felt like it was too easy at times on a comeback, on a hitch route, on a curl route, on an end cut. When you're playing that type of competition, I need sticky coverage. I need DeCarlos Nicholson in your hip. I need DJ Harvey in your hip. I need Marcellus Williams, Braylon Conley, those guys that came in and played. I need tight coverage all game long. Kevin Longstreet, another guy, that came in and played a good amount with those starting unit. It just there were times, whether zone or man, that it was too easy for Georgia Southern and their offense to get some of those completions. So again, I don't know if I want to hit the panic button yet. It's early. There's a lot of rotation. There's a lot of young guys playing, but it's something that if it doesn't get fixed, teams are going to see this on film and know that this is something that USC on defense struggles with. They're going to take advantage of it. And you can't have those mistakes against Oregon, against Notre Dame, against some of these tougher competition, to where if we give up some of those easy plays and some of those explosive plays in the pass game or in the run game, it's going to come back and bite us, and it's going to be tough to overcome those things.
The interesting thing about this defense, when you look at it, is at every level, it's almost like there is a complete new face as a starter and a somewhat veteran alongside them. So it's a weird mix of new faces and kind of veteran faces. How do you set your expectations for, if Bishop has a mistake like that, like it's game 2 for him in this defense under Lynn, is that understandable? Where do you set your expectations in that sense, Cody?
It's a little bit of both. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that mistakes aren't going to happen, because they will, and you're not going to be perfect, right? Right? You want to be perfect, and you strive for perfection, and that's the goal, right? We know MAs, like we call them. When you go back on the film room, you look at MAs. How many MAs did you have? Miss assignments. Those are things that you want to eliminate. You want to have none, but you're going to have some, and you're playing at a high level, and it's fast paced, and it's Division 1, and there's other talented guys on opposing rosters. You're going to have some mistakes, but what you can control is what you do before the ball is snapped. And that's pre-snap communication, and making sure guys are lined up in the right spot, and making sure everyone gets the call, and making sure that Desmond Stevens or whoever has the green dot on in the communication system is relaying the message to everyone. There is no excuse for things that you can control having mistakes like that, like getting the wrong call or not being in the right spot. If you're a new face, fine. One time, I'll let it slide. After that, can't happen, because as much as you want to say, oh, we'll get them fixed. My bad, my bad. My bads don't work in the Big Ten. My bads are going to put you in 7th place in the Big Ten. My bads can't keep happening. It's got to be, I got this. It's fixed. Won't happen again. And that has to mean something. And you got to go out there and make sure that you correct those things. And again, I'm not trying to be critical of this team. I'm not trying to call people out, but I know the standard and the expectation that this team has. And there's some talented guys on this roster. This defense could be very good. They really can. It's just going from here to here. And that's how small the margin of error is. Like, there's not big mistakes. Although there were big plays in the run game, that's the difference of a guy being 1.5 yards out of position and being in the B gap instead of being in the A gap. That's Desmond Stevens being a half step late instead of being a half step early and making the play. That's Eric Gentry not getting over a block in time and missing getting a hand on the guy, but not being there perfectly. Like, that's how small the margin for error is. And I wouldn't be saying these things if I didn't know that these guys could get it fixed. I think Bishop Fitzgerald has potential to be a great safety in the Big Ten. I think Desmond Stevens could be a defensive player of the year in the Big Ten, that type of capability. Eric Gentry, these guys up front, these defensive linemen. I wouldn't say this stuff if I didn't think they were going to get it fixed. I would just say, oh, it's all right. We'll get it taken care of. Let's do a quick preview. Let's move on, or a recap. I don't believe that. I know how good these guys are and how good they can be, and I believe in them. And I'll say the same thing about the offense. If Maava was making mistakes, and I did it last year, I was critical on him. I was critical on the offensive line when they struggled. I was critical on the running backs, the defensive, just everything. Everybody as a whole. This is USC, and I know what these guys are capable of doing. This is the best roster, in my opinion, that Lincoln Riley has had in recent memory. And these guys can be great this year. They really can, and I really believe that. And I know the fans feel that, and you can see that. I just want it so badly for them. And I know the Trojan family does as well. And I have full faith in Lincoln Riley and Dan Lynn and the rest of this coaching staff to get these guys there. And I know they're going to hold themselves accountable. So this is maybe my soapbox talk before Big Ten play starts. If you can't tell, I'm fired up for the Boilermakers this week. I know how good this defense can be. I know how good this offense can be. They're playing at a high level. Defense is going to get there. I really expect big things from this team this year, and I'm sure the fans do as well.
Well, Cody, that was almost you like transitioned us into like an outro almost. In that sense, on the whole, how are you feeling about this USC team now 2 games in?
I feel great. I really do. I'm fired up. I know I was a little harsh maybe this episode and holding guys accountable a little bit, but I really feel great about this football team. I'm excited. I wish I could lace it up, put the pads on. Where's my helmet? I wish I could literally maybe throw this helmet. I got a hat on, so I can't do it. I wish I could throw this on right now and go back out there and play with this group. I really, really, really believe in this unit. I think they're going to be a very good football team. I think Coach Riley is going to help this team elevate themselves to the next level. It's Big Ten play. This is what we signed up for. Let's go out there and show that we can dominate in this conference and handle business. Don't look at the end of the year, though. Don't focus on the Big Ten championship. Don't focus on the college football playoff and all these other things. Focus on 1 week at a time. And this week, it's another nameless, faceless opponent, and they just happen to be the Purdue Boilermakers.
Alrighty, that's going to wrap it up for our recap episode. Cody's already getting us ready for our preview episode. Big Ten play starts. Oh, he's getting the helmet again. There we go. But that's going to wrap it up for today's recap episode. Again, apologies for the delayed release, so sorry about that. But we will be back sooner than you know it, so don't worry about that. But that's Cody. I'm Keely. We'll see y'all next time.